I'll tell you, Rob, you date me by a few years, just a few.
I thought it was months, but if we're going to say years, sure,
just
we can
a few,
stretch the truth.
But I will say, I think this week I have surpassed you in age. And the reason why I say that is because ever since our friend Peter O'Reilly last week gave you the okay to root for your childhood team to make it to the Super Bowl, I've just seen this boyhood-like glow on your face ever since you got given the green light.
It's something that I don't sleep a lot to begin with, but it's something that's weighed on my conscience very heavily. It's like we always want to make sure our friends at the NFL approve of everything we do. We're always in lockstep. And so I was going to feel really guilty rooting for the Buccaneers to run the table and make it all the way. And when I say rooting, I was going to be doing it internally, but to be able to do this externally now is pretty special.
I know that it had been weighing on you. I could see the stress on your face. I'm just glad that it's off the table now. You're good to go. You can openly root for your team. And I can see you truly happy in this process. That's just what this is all about.
And you can see that we're already making moves because of it. I mean, the architect now of this upcoming championship run is going to be a guest on today's podcast episode.
Yes, I do want to welcome you all to the Tampa Bay 55 podcast. Ryan Bass and Rob Higgins here with you. Rob, how many days are we away from Super Bowl 55?
263 days away.
It will be here before you know it. And you mentioned the architect of hopefully the 2021 NFL champions, which would be your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jason Licht's going to join us, the GM, who has had a busy offseason and who, by the way, was in our conversation, open, honest, contrite, personable, point blank. You like him and I like him. And we're going to get a chance to talk to him here on the podcast as well. Also, we're going to talk to KK on the podcast. No, not Kevin Kiermaier, the better version of KK. That would be Katie Kicklighter, who is a superstar and, might I say, a Gold Glover for your team as well.
Oh, man. She is. When you talk about architect, she's the one that's building the game plan to make sure that we're successfully showing off our event venues so that this whole range of different events. You talk about the Super Bowl, it's probably 150 to 200 events so that they find the right home in our community, have a great experience, and she's right at ground zero of helping make that happen and has been doing it in an all new way over this last 2.5 months. So she's part of this overall dream team, and we're excited to hear more about some of her insight.
And she kind of dropped some hints on some events that are confirmed and coming to town for Super Bowl 55. So little tease for that. You're going to want to stick around for her interview because you'll learn of some things that are that have already been nailed down, not in the works, but have already been cemented in as part of the fun for Super Bowl 55. Look, as we get to this point, Rob, we are, I believe now we are episode 19 into the Tampa Bay 55 podcast. I've been wondering when we're going to have some sort of sponsor to come in and just show us some love because, we've been grinding and it seems like my dreams are finally going to come true.
Well, I think when we got to episode 5, you and I thought we had made it. And so now the fact we're at episode 19, I think people are taking notice and people are liking, digging in some cases what we're doing. And so the overall Super Bowl, we've talked about this being this host effort, being a public-private partnership. We've got great public partners on board. You've heard from them in the last few episodes with Commissioner Miller with Hillsborough County and the mayor with the city of Tampa. And there's so many more. Then on the private partner side, it's important to have a lot of great private partners, which you've heard from some of them before. You're going to hear from some of them again. And then as you reference, we've got a couple of partners coming on that we'll announce next week as part of our overall partnership portfolio. And that's the great thing about Team Tampa Bay is I think everybody understands the value of the Super Bowl. They understand the opportunity we have as a community. They want to be a part of it. And even though, we've been going through what we've been through the last couple months, and even in spite of that, you got companies that are stepping up and wanting to be a part of the overall effort. So we're going to talk more about that next week, but that never stops. We're constantly working together, constantly aligning ourselves with great public and private entities to make this whole Road to Tampa Bay, a big success.
It's the train is steamrolling ahead, my friend, and we are starting to pick up some momentum as we continue to get closer to Super Bowl 55. The brand has never been stronger for Tampa Bay 55. Speaking of which, you were telling me before we jumped on this thing that we've got a portfolio of the brand that, I mean, the possibilities are endless for plotting that thing and putting it all around town.
Well, branding is a huge part of what we do. I mean, it starts with our host committee logo, and then we've created other identifying marks that you'll see as well with our community ambassadors or Forever 55. Some of these subsets that all lock into that overall brand. But then the branding itself that you'll see take place is part of rolling out the red carpet for Super Bowl 55 in and around town. Is a big part of what we do. It's a big part of creating this overall welcome mat for locals and visitors alike to be able to have as a great backdrop for this awesome celebration. And so Jason Augie on our team is working hand in hand with the NFL. He actually, through all of our community partners, has created this opportunity deck. It's over 60 pages and more than 3,000 placements that you could see. It ranges from everything from street pole banners to welcome signage at the airport to along the Riverwalk, in and around the entire region. And again, like, we want this to be like a 360-degree brand where no matter where you're at during and leading up to Super Bowl, you've got a sense of the overall event. And again, it speaks to that partnership with the NFL, doing it in tandem with them and making sure that we have a great branding and at-a-home campaign is really important. So that's been a big focus over these last few weeks as well.
When can we start to see some of those around town, though? Because I think, when we were in Miami, I just remember, and I start to think of things now through your lens because I've spent more time with you than I have my parents really over the last, 3-4 months. I see the signage everywhere. I mean, it's on everything. You talk about street poles, even, railings for sidewalks. It's everywhere. When can we start to expect to see some of that popping up around our town?
I think you'll see like the major line share of it within the 30-day window of February 7th. But with that being said, you'll see some elements that could start as early as the start of football season. Naturally, we want to leverage the sentiment, and with that being top of mind and whatnot. So it really just depends on the item, maybe the size and scope of it. But in general, it'll just continue to build up and crescendo along the road to Tampa Bay with just, this monstrosity of an opportunity when it comes to the look and decor of the event in early February.
Speaking of branding, I mean, look what we got here, buddy.
Hey, you cut me off at the pass. I will tell you, congratulations. I love the new logo for WTSP and the whole family.
It's 10 Tampa Bay now, buddy. No more WTSP. We are 10 Tampa Bay.
10 Tampa Bay. You guys are always a 10 in my book. And so congratulations. I love the new logo. I've started to see it pop up, but today's, this week's the big launch, right?
Yes, it is. And these are our 10 Tampa Bay koozies. Of all of the swag giveaways, these were the most valuable to me. And so I decided to save you one of these. So I got two here. One of them is going to go to you. It's got the nice little 10 Tampa Bay logo on the bottom. So when you're sipping on a nice cold one. So for your Memorial Day weekend, when you're kicking back and relaxing with the fam, you can represent your awesome partner in 10 Tampa Bay. So this is coming right for you.
I love it. I appreciate it. For some reason, I think your koozie may get more use during Memorial Day weekend than mine, but I for sure will utilize it, and I appreciate it. Again, congrats to Carrie, Kelly, you, the whole team. I mean, what an exciting brand. We know going through this with Super Bowl and with all these different identifiers you referenced, what a process that is. And you want to make sure you have a look and feel that's reflective of the organization, and you guys have nailed it. So congratulations.
We certainly did. It was an awesome process, and a long process, but I'm really proud of our team, Andy Caliendo, our marketing manager as well. Great job by everyone involved. And when you discuss brands, the most recognizable and hottest brand in the NFL right now is your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have never seen this franchise more propped up on a national pedestal than I have really the last month and a half with all of the news that's been going down. And I'll tell you, the buzz around this city as we talk to Jason Licht, in a few minutes now, the buzz around the city, it's electric for Bucs football.
Our co-chair, Derek Brooks, you'd have to date back to his days. He and I have laughed about it, but that relevance that you see, that excitement locally, regionally, nationally, it's crazy how high it is right now. And to get a chance to visit with our good friend Jason Licht and get his perspective on it is awesome.
Really glad to have Jason Licht, the GM of the Bucs, joining us here. And Jason, just as we get started here, just have to ask, how's Blair? How's Charlie, Theo, Zoe? How's everybody doing? How's the fam? Everyone's safe, of course, right?
Everybody's safe. Everybody's good. Today was their last day of school. So, I wouldn't be surprised if my wife is upstairs doing cartwheels right now, or something else that involves adult beverages. But it's, they're good. I mean, throughout this last couple months, my wife is the true hero here, taking care of the kids while I've been bunkered down and trying to do my work. So I got to give appreciation to her. But it's been great. I know everybody could probably say the same thing.
Yeah, this man probably agrees with you, Rob. Am I right?
My son is taking his math final as we speak, and he reminded me not to talk too loud downstairs while he's up there grinding out his final exam. But Jason, you've had quite the offseason between Brady and Gronk and re-signing the defense. But let the listeners know, is being on the podcast truly the highlight of the last 2.5 months for you?
There is no doubt. There's no doubt. And so this is the thing I've been looking forward to most.
Well, we have certainly been looking forward to it for sure, Jason. And your offseason, it's been well documented. I don't think I've seen the Tampa Bay Buccaneers talked about more in the last 2 months than I did in the 5 years I've spent covering this team, Jason. And since you've truly been here, it has been remarkable. Not just the national exposure, but truly what your organization, your team has done to really flip this franchise upside down and turn it into what a lot of people are calling a Super Bowl contender. You certainly see this team as a franchise that has a chance to compete for the Lombardi Trophy in your home stadium this year, don't you?
Well, that would be awesome. That would be obviously something that's never happened. It's been a fantastic. I got a great staff. I've got a great head coach. He's got a great staff. We're really excited, and I love the fact that Bruce loves high expectations. He thrives on it, and he feels players should, and we have players that could deal with it. Starting with, but not limited to Tom. So high expectations come with him, and all of our players. I mean, I could take forever to name them all, but JPP, Levante, Sue and Shaq, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I mean, on and on. These guys are all thriving or just starving for a winning championship level team. So it's going to be a fun year.
Being a lifelong Buccaneer fan, I think we have this commonality among us now. Like, we all remember where we were at when we found out about Tom Brady. Now, you as the GM, what was like that moment for you when you knew you had the greatest of all time coming here to quarterback our Buccaneers?
Well, it was a big sigh of relief because the buildup and just the angst of wondering if this was going to come to fruition. There's since the end of the season, and we started evaluating quarterbacks, and he was the number one option for us. Number one, we didn't know if he was going to leave the Patriots, and number two, if he did, if he would choose Tampa. And unfortunately, we wouldn't know those answers or to both questions, at least until, the signing day, free agency opened. So when we finally had the call, and I drove over to Bruce's house that evening, and we had a call with Tom, and when things went really well on the call between the three of us, Bruce and I, we had a beverage. So it was a fun night. Yeah. One that we'll probably never forget.
We've had real quick. Let me ask
you
this. So we've had on this podcast the last month, we've had OJ Howard on here, and he's talked about what it'd be like the first practice to catch a ball from Tom. And then we've had Devin White on, talking about what it'd be like to defend against him in the first practice. For you, how much pride will you take? How anxious are you, eager are you to see him to take the practice field for the first time? And have you been hiding in the Berkeley Prep forest next to Berkeley Prep with the paparazzi trying to get your own glimpse? Have you been tempted to do that?
Moving branches out of the way. No, it'll be exciting to see him, obviously, but also, to see just how our whole team communicates and reacts and how they gel and the chemistry and his leadership, but then also the leadership of the veterans that we do have, because we have some great leaders on this team. I think it's just going to extract the best out of everybody. So haven't even mentioned Gronk yet. So I'm excited to see Gronk. I know there's been talk of BA maybe trying to get the title away from him, but I may hide in the bushes for that. That would be something.
I think he's the longest to hold that title, by the way. Like,
we lost
days.
WrestleMania, but we picked up a WWE champion. Who would have thunk it?
I mean, who would have thought a year and a half ago that Bruce would be our head coach, Tom Brady would be our quarterback, Gronk would be here, and we'd be doing a draft from home. I mean, it's I guess this just goes to show you the possibilities are endless. You never discount anything.
That they are, and the Buccaneers' odds to win the Super Bowl certainly skyrocketed in the events that certainly preceded that, as you certainly talked about. Can you just peel back the curtain, Jason, a little bit, because you just talked about really the last year and a half and what it's meant to this franchise. Can you peel back the curtain on what that process was like to get Tom here, to then try, as he wanted Gronk here, to move in that direction and really set this franchise up to where you are right now to truly break that playoff drought and compete for a championship?
After the season, we knew we had a very good defense that came on in the second half of the year. Very excited about that. I found myself, and I'm not alone, going to games, excited to watch the defense, which, hasn't always been the case here. We very close games. We lost a lot of very close games, some that could have gone our way, whether it was, a turnover or a early whistle or what have you. But we felt that the opportunity to get Tom Brady, if it's there, would really help this team in a number of ways. And this isn't any negative towards Jameis. It's more of a just calling it like it is. Tom Brady is one of the best, if not the best quarterback of all time. And we still felt like he has it. He has gas left in the tank. And in fact, I thought he had a very good year last year. I thought he was, they had some injuries and they were going through some things like most teams do, but I think despite all those things, he still had a very good year. So getting him here, we felt like with his leadership and just his, experiences and how he wants to set the standard. And that's one of his passions, is passing the torch on to other players and showing them what he's learned. We felt like that was something that our team needed. And Bruce was very excited about it. Bruce already has changed a lot of things with this team.
JC, you mentioned Gronk. With both him and Tom, you've got, two pop culture icons, basically. I mean, the other day I was flipping through the channels of TV one night, and I saw Gronk on 3 different channels doing 3 different things. He was singing, dressed up like a mascot. He was, doing something else. And it's interesting. Like, these guys are like transcend culture in a lot of different ways. How do you anticipate ingraining that with the overall team?
Oh, I think it'll be all right. I mean, these guys know how to handle it. I mean, when you have a player on your team that does a 2-hour interview with Howard Stern, that kind of tells you where we're at now in terms of the popularity of the athlete with Tom and Gronk, like you said. But I think, just those players alone and just what they can do on the field are going to bring out personalities in our other players too. And we're going to, I think the nation is going to see that, Levante David is a pretty, damn good linebacker. And, this is just one example. I think our offensive line is going to be, people are going to find out it's a little better than what the perception is. So it's, it's exciting. I think, but like I said, you got guys that you said, are pop culture, very popular, whatever you said, transcend. they know how to handle it though. So I think our players are going to learn how to handle it themselves. So that's a good thing. If you have a young, immature team that gets thrown out there and very popular and, have high expectations, sometimes things can go not the way you want. But I don't have that. We don't fear that at all with this group.
Jason, you mentioned how different things have been over the last year and a half, especially really the last 2 months, which has felt like a year and a half. I think you can certainly agree with that sentiment, given the pandemic. And obviously, the health and safety of everyone is the top priority here. But this has allowed us as a society and really in your profession to spend more time with your family. And doing the draft from home. I'll tell you what, my favorite part of the draft was seeing your kids and interacting with them and how much of a part of the process they were. It was awesome, Jason. And you already are charismatic and you already let people in, but to peel that curtain back even more to see you as a father was really, really cool. How much did you enjoy that? And how much do you think that can now be a part more of the profession of allowing people to maybe work from home a little bit more or spend more time with their families, given that we have been forced to do that? It was just awesome to see, Jason, you and your kids. That was fantastic.
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to let them be involved in this because I didn't want to shut them out and lock myself in my office, for a full day of, watching tape and having interviews and talking to, the staff. I wanted them to be a part of it. My wife wanted them to be a part of it. And little things like making signs for me in the draft room or decorating them. It was actually the playroom that we converted because my office was too small. But you never saw in there was a Papa shot behind me. So we were, taking shots on that in between picks. But, I did find that I felt like I was maybe even more productive during that, those 2 months preparing. I was able to work at any hour. I was able to quickly, grab lunch instead of, taking time to walk down to the cafeteria. There was less distractions. I was able to get on Zooms or WebEx, teleconference meetings, video conference meetings with my scouts and with players at any time. So it was very relaxed. I didn't think it was going to be that way going in. The first day that I moved my office to home, I was a little skeptical how this was going to work. But after it was all over, I think some things are going to change a little bit, and not just for the Buccaneers, but I think around the world. I think it's okay to be at home a little bit more, and you don't have to be in the office till 2 a.m.
One last question from my end, Jason. It's a question that I truly feel doesn't get asked enough. And so I'm excited to get an opportunity to ask you. And that's, what is your view on the impact that the Glazer family has had on the organization as well as the community? I feel like it's been really unheralded and would love to get your perspective on that.
They're unbelievable. They are just simply unbelievable. None of this would happen without them, without their leadership, without them, giving us the go-ahead, the resources. But they're very quiet in their methods. They don't like to get patted on the back. They don't love to see, stories written about how great they are. They just do it in a quiet way. They do more than what the public knows for this community. And we're very fortunate to have them as our owners, and that, if hopefully we're hoisting a Super Bowl trophy in the not too near future, distant future. And, we can credit them for every step of the way.
Jason, I know you're kind of following the NFL's lead, and there's still so much we don't know really about the next week, let alone the next couple of months ahead. But as far as training camp, preseason, fans or no fans, I know you want fans in the stands, but would you be willing to have your team and play out this season if there are no fans in the stands? And do you have any potential updates on us on where we stand with seeing football again?
I really don't. I think there's a lot of really smart people that are figuring this out, and the safety of our fans and our players and our staff, are obviously very, very important. So, they're trying to figure things out. I know that there's a lot of meetings going on with that within the NFL, and we'll know soon enough. but all of us are starved for football, and I know that we've got a team that's chomping at the bit to get out there. So however it looks, I think we'll be excited, but we just want to make sure that we're doing it the best possible way. And I know that we have a lot of smart people, like I said, that are trying to put plans together. So I trust them.
I had two quick things for you, Jason. One of my favorite things also from the draft is your kids asking you questions on YouTube prior to the second round. Do you think Theo is going to take my job one day? Because he was really good at asking questions.
I think he might. I think Zoe has. She really kind of came out of her shell a little bit during that. I think she may have found what her passion in life is going to be, and so Rob better watch out too as well. So Brian, I don't know if you're hiring interns now that school's out.
We would love it.
Maybe we can. Yeah,
I think Blair would second that motion.
There's no doubt.
Both of us, Jason, they have a future in broadcasting, so they want to come hang with me. They're more than welcome to. And then my last question is for you. I loved when you jumped into the pool in a full suit after wins. So once you win the Super Bowl, do you take the entire closet and put it in the pool? Like, how do you one up that now?
Well, I don't think I'm going to be jumping into the pool after wins, because I want to I want to follow suit here, and we're expecting to win. So, why are you going to celebrate when you accomplish something that you expected? So, but we win the Super Bowl. I don't know. We'll have to think it's something big. The whole closet may go in. I'll light the closet on fire.
No fire hazards here, but maybe.
No, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you ride. Maybe you jump into the bay or something. We'll figure something out. But
Jason,
either way,
we had Peter O'Reilly from the NFL on last week, and we got special dispensation from him as we get ready for Super Bowl 55 to host it. You guys are getting ready to play in it. He's given us his blessing that we're allowed to be totally biased and root for you guys to run the table, wind up with the Lombardi at Raymond James Stadium. And I can tell you, you've put these pieces together to make it happen. And as the lifelong Bucs fan, we're just so excited, and we couldn't be more appreciative for all your help. And thanks for coming on today.
I appreciate it. One step at a time here, but I appreciate it.
Well, you heard what it would mean to Jason Licht and the Bucs to be able to play in the venue that's hosting Super Bowl 55. That, of course, is Raymond James Stadium. We're all excited to see what it's going to look like, and it's going to be beautiful come game day on February 7th, 2021. But that's not the only facility and venue for events surrounding Super Bowl, Rob. It is a massive undertaking to be able to put on not just the Super Bowl, which is going to be the hub at Raymond James Stadium, but everything surrounding it. There are hundreds of events surrounding the big game.
It always starts with the game, and that's naturally the top priority, but it is so much more than one game. The Super Bowl brings a ton of different events. And so we wanted to make sure we had somebody on our staff that really has their eye on the ball day in, day out, each and every hour, and being a liaison to all these different events, and being, almost a conduit of sorts between all these great event venues that we have locally, and then all these different programs that'll come into town. And so we're fortunate to have a specialist on our team in Katie Kicklighter, who we got a chance to sit and visit with and learn a little bit about her perspective and what she's going through each and every day as we prepare for the road to Tampa Bay. You may remember last week we talked a little bit about event venues and the allocation program and all those different things, and teased an interview with Katie, and we finally were able to work ourselves into her busy schedule. So thanks for joining the show, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Happy to be on here.
So, you've been extremely busy, but before we get into Super Bowl, maybe we can backtrack a little bit and talk about your start was really with the USF Vinix Sports and Entertainment Management Program, and then you joined our team as a resident at the Sports Commission and worked on Women's Final Four. Maybe share with the listeners a little bit about your role with the 2019 Women's Final Four.
Sure. So first, we've got to give our little Go Bulls, because I know Ryan's
That's right, Ryan.
fan.
You see that football right behind me, don't you? You see what that football logo says on it.
The national champions. Yeah, so graduated from as Rob said, the U.S. Clinic Management, Sport Management program. So gained a lot of, experience there and through working with the sports commission team, which has been a huge asset, in transitioning to this role, and just a good, overall knowledge base of getting to work on events like NHL All-Star and the Women's Final Four, and, using those experiences to build and to, just elevate everything that we're doing around the Super Bowl for 2021.
First of all, you are my favorite KK in town. Okay. Despite the jab you had right before that answer, you are my favorite KK in town, Katie. So no one can take that away from you, despite how you started this interview with me. With that being said, Rob continually touts the job you are doing and your team. If you could just give us an idea of, because everybody's got these different roles, right, when it comes to planning Super Bowl 55, which is obviously a massive event and a massive overhaul. What specifically are you doing in helping plan that process and bring the big game here to Tampa Bay?
Sure. So, my primary role is as a liaison to the NFL for all of their signature events, and, truly finding the best venues and locations for those events, and then connecting them with the right people to make those happen and to make those successful. And, again, once those are all placed, then we have, hundreds of other events that are going to be going on around Super Bowl that all help also identify venues and, again, locations that just, fit their needs, whether it's capacity, square footage, overall look, feel, theme. Everybody has a different vision for what they want their Super Bowl event to be and look like. And, we're helping make that happen.
We talked last week actually about the NFL Honors event at the Straz Center and how cool it was to do that virtual tour. I'm sure that was certainly different, right? Because, the NFL team can't come down here and see it. So now you're kind of helping with this virtual tour and an event there. Like, what was that experience like? Because I'm sure it was different.
Yeah, absolutely. The Straz was amazing. I've, again, never done this virtual walkthrough. It's a totally new concept, but one that can be implemented even moving forward as a valuable tool. And, at the time we were like, man, we really should have recorded that, because, playing it back would have been so helpful. And, we'll probably do more of those and learn from that and be able to, use what we learned there. The walkthrough included, things that I hadn't even been on in true site visits, and areas of the facility that the NFL was asking about. You could turn and say, this door goes to backstage and connects to this dressing room, and this is how you go here. So just, again, such a great tool, and we're really grateful that the Straz was able to offer that.
I think one of the cool things that we've been able to see is just how well our community partners have not only, adapted to this remote environment, but just how great of a job they do showcasing their venues as well as our overall community. You've been instrumental in help creating what we call the VAP, the Venue Allocation Program. Maybe shed a little light in terms of what the venue allocation program is, some of those, successes we've seen with it, the type of feedback that we've gotten from it here initially as well.
Sure. So the venue allocation program, is kind of our way of connecting with every venue in the community of Tampa Bay and, St. Pete, Clearwater, and beyond. We've worked with each of these managers, event coordinators, owners of all of these sites to populate what we call our portal, and that's accessible by the NFL. Any of the events that are coming to town that we share that link with, they can log on and see not only, the numbers of capacity and square footage again, but photos, layouts, links to the website for the venue. It's, again, just truly a directory and a tool for them to use, and especially during this time when they're not able to take these site visits, to kind of visualize what their event could look like in any of these venues.
I imagine you have like a master list of like all of the venues in Tampa Bay. Like, what is your vantage point? Because when you talk about venues, there are so many spread across our entire city. Like, is this just a massive like Google spreadsheet you've got of just all these venues around town?
So there is a master spreadsheet, and, I think that in a next life, maybe I can be like a wedding planner or something, because I know inside and out everything there is to know about any venue you could possibly want. We have 114 venues that are participating in the program. So that's kind of the list that we keep on on our portal, but then obviously we're exploring all of these non-traditional options, whether it's airplane hangars, warehouses, cruise terminals. We've got all kinds of, spaces that we're working to get different permits and things to use them for event spaces too.
Now, does the NFL come to you and say, all right, Katie, we want your recommendation on an event space? Because you obviously know these event spaces better than anybody else at this point. So what's that communication flow like? Do they say, Katie, what would you recommend for XYZ event?
So as part of the Super Bowl bid, there were venues that were identified for a lot of the NFL signature events that kind of took place before my time on the staff, and obviously got to go on site visits and tours with them to help narrow down that list and the placements of the signature events. So, they do look for our feedback on, what the venue could help them service from a, transportation standpoint. How easy is it to access this venue? What do you see in other events or past events that have taken place as far as traffic control? How are they able to meet our needs? What restrictions do they have related to decor? Any number of things that they might be looking to do inside that venue.
And then once you get past those NFL events, there's a variety, as we've talked about before on the podcast, a variety of events that, make their way to Super Bowl that maybe don't have a direct connection to the NFL, but are these, Super Bowl events. We talked to Jack Murphy a while back in terms of, the build out of his event each year. What are some of those events that we're starting to hear from and starting to work through? Ryan obviously is a gigantic fan of the Gronk Beach Bash. So is that somebody we've already talked to, or what are some of the other names of the events that we're starting to see come down the pipe that we're showcasing the facilities for?
Yeah, and happy to report that Gronk's Beach Bash is planning to make a return, even though he is no longer in retirement. So, Ryan, you might have the chance to go to that event.
Oh, Rob, I thought I needed your help to get into this event.
No,
I was wrong
Katie.
this entire time.
Katie.
Now I've got to sweet talk Katie, which I already started doing during this interview. So now I know my lifeline to get on stage at Gronk Beach relies with KK. I'm very excited about that.
Absolutely. Glad to have that off my plate. Congratulations, Katie.
So when I forward that email back to Rob, I'm just kidding.
I already have your cell phone, Katie. It's just going to be text messages. We're good to go.
Oh, and yeah, definitely change the number after this.
Any other events, though? I mean, you mentioned Gronk Beach, but is there anything else that you can chat with that's been in the works?
Yeah, sure. So the Gronk's Beach Bash, actually, the same agency also puts on Shaq's Funhouse, which is a carnival party event that's lived alongside the Super Bowl for a couple years now. That one's really exciting. Obviously, you've got the Sports Illustrated Maxim, and then, as Rob alluded to earlier, the AT&T Super Saturday Night. So there's a lot of those huge non-sanctioned events that are coming down the pipeline, and obviously, with the holds that we have in place, have reached out, to have us help them with their venue selection. But I think one of the other areas where we're really assisting the NFL is with their corporate partners. And each of those corporate partners brings in clients, and, they want to host the biggest and best events of the Super Bowl too. So helping them identify locations for their events, whether it's, Sunday morning brunches or corporate dinners. There's a lot of smaller things that are going on too that maybe aren't at the forefront, but are equally as important when we look at the whole footprint of Super Bowl events.
How many things are you balancing at a time? Like you just mentioned it. You've got big events, you've got small events, you've got, ones that obviously have this more intimate style. There's a lot on your plate right now, Katie, and you seem to be handling it very well.
Well, thank you. And, you mentioned Excel. I have the biggest master grid that I'm so proud of creating. Each cell can be, sorted and filtered, and, so that grid is my lifeline.
She does it all, though. It's not just, creating spreadsheets and showcasing photos and all that other stuff to give you a peek even further behind the scenes. Literally this morning, she was out measuring parking lots for potential events to make sure the square footage that our good friends from Google Earth, to make sure that's accurate. So no job too big or too small. Katie, we couldn't be more appreciative for everything you're doing to make the Super Bowl a success and to help our hometown shine. So thanks for joining us, and and we look forward to all the work and fun ahead. That's for sure. Well, again, Katie continues to do an amazing job, as does the whole team. We're really kicking into high gear from a planning standpoint. I think we've been there for quite some time, but we're about 2 weeks out from another major milestone in the planning effort, which is our next production meeting with the NFL. We've already had, I think, 30 plus Zoom meetings this week, and I'm sure during that production meeting week will probably be 40 or 50. But each of those production meetings gives us a chance to pause, compare notes across all these different fronts, whether it be stadium or transportation or security, hotels, event venues like with Katie, all of them, as we work with the NFL, their special events team, all the different vendors that are involved. And so we're gearing up for that meeting and that whole week of meetings here coming up.
I know you had mentioned to me in passing that those are like mile markers in a sense, right? Like each big production meeting is like a mile marker to mile marker 0 for Super Bowl 55. This one seems to be even more monumental as you continue to get forward, right? Not that they get bigger and bigger, but you kind of check off more things on the list per se, correct?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're so granular in terms of all these different individual meetings, and we've talked about this being like a puzzle in the past. I think the production meeting specifically gives you this time to take a step back, compare where all these individual pieces are starting to come together with, and see where we're at almost more in totality, because everybody from all these different individual meetings can compare notes on more of a global basis. And so those are always an exciting time. Every minute of this process has been an exciting time, but it gives you a chance to see, I think, more where we're at from a global standpoint.
And certainly the work I know continues to get done as you move forward, and get closer to game week. One of the things that I know has been talked about, and this necessarily isn't a subject that's fun to discuss, but human trafficking is certainly, a conversation, especially surrounding the Super Bowl. That's an important one to have. And you guys are certainly thinking in that regard, and making sure that we're doing our part in protecting against that, correct?
Yeah, we are fortunate again with Team Tampa Bay to have so many specialists across a variety of different subjects and initiatives, and we've got one of those when it comes to the fight against human trafficking, and that's Commissioner Overman with the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, and she, through the county and several other key agencies and entities, have established an overall committee that'll really serve as the spearhead or convener, the overall group that's going to be responsible for helping lead that effort as part of Super Bowl. So we have really our first meeting with them next week as part of it. It's naturally one we'd love to, as we talk about all the different areas within big events and within the Super Bowl. It's one we'll naturally want to have Commissioner Overman on as this thing progresses on the podcast to talk about, because it certainly is a very important initiative, and their group is already doing some great things and preparing to do great things to make sure that we put our best foot forward in that regard.
We're getting close to the 255-day mark of Super Bowl 55, buddy. I mean, I'm starting to feel it, right? I mean, we've been talking about this forever. Like, I'm really starting to get those jitters, like those game day jitters are popping up, because we are getting closer, my man. It doesn't seem like it. I know that, or at least doesn't sound like it when you mentioned 250 something days, but we're getting there.
We are getting there. And while there's no time to get nervous here, Ryan, you're going to be fine. You were built for this moment.
Thank you.
You're going to do an awesome job.
Thank you.
But with that being said, I know the importance of rest. So what I think you should do is maybe take Memorial Weekend off, get a chance to rest and recharge. And that way, when we hit that 255-day mark, you're ready for the sprint that it is.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have to scramble to edit this podcast and host my shows tonight, because I have tomorrow off to be able to relax. But I will tell you, these koozies right here, they're going to get a workout over the weekend, okay? Because my idea of relaxation is kicking back and enjoying a cold one and not thinking about Rob Higgins, but thinking about enjoying the sunshine on the beaches. And that's what I plan to do this weekend, buddy.
Well, I will loan you back my koozie so you can double fist the all of Memorial Weekend, and then I'll catch you on the other side. I'll collect my koozie, and we will be ready for the sprint that is 255 days out, buddy. I look forward to it.
I cannot promise your koozie will come back in mint condition like it is right now. That's unfortunately, buddy, but still have a very, very good Memorial Day weekend. Everybody think of those that certainly have lost their lives and paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to be able to live in the greatest country in the world like we do. So with that, Rob, have a great holiday weekend. You as well. Rest up, my friend. And we'll get back at it next week.
Well said. Happy Memorial Day, everybody.